Commander Ryland Voss sat alone in the mess hall of the Dominion cruiser Vigilant Mercy, fingers wrapped around a mug of synth brew that tasted like scorched rubber and regret. He grimaced and took another sip, silently cursing a galaxy advanced enough to fold space but too incompetent to replicate real coffee. A massive viewport filled the far wall, showing a formation of warships assembling over the crimson world of Varnock Prime. Sleek destroyers and hammer-headed dreadnoughts of alien design hovered in tight formation. Visually impressive, tactically cluttered. His instincts itched. Too close, too rigid. An invitation for area denial strikes. A burst of stifled laughter pulled his attention to a cluster of Dominion officers seated nearby. One of them, with silver-hued skin and twitching mandibles, quickly dimmed a data panel when he saw Voss watching. 20 years in the Terran Vanguard had taught Voss the sound of mockery cloaked in diplomacy. He'd been Earth's military envoy to the Dominion for 3 months now, and the novelty had long since worn off. To these species, humans were little more than a galactic accident, barely evolved apes who'd stumbled into FTL by tinkering with reactors in sheer stubbornness. "Commander Voss!" The voice came from behind, soft but precise. It was Ensign Relk, a member of the Zairan caste, thin, pale, and with those ever-blinking vertical pupils that made them look permanently startled. Like most Zairan, Relk stood entirely too close for human comfort. "High Strategist Veclin requests your presence in the War Nexus. Immediately." Voss downed the last of the bitter brew, adjusted the stiff collar of his ceremonial uniform, and stood. The Dominion standard fabrics never quite fit right, too tight across the shoulders, too fragile for a sudden move. Useless in a fight, unlike the battle gear he missed. "Lead the way." They moved through gleaming, antiseptic corridors under harsh lighting. The ship's climate was set far too cold for human tastes, a small, constant reminder of his status as the outsider. The War Nexus was a vast chamber wrapped in concentric tiers of command, its centerpiece a shifting holomap of the Varnock system. Dozens of Dominion warlords, each from a different race, stood around it, gesturing, arguing, barking in dialects the translator barely kept up with. At the head stood High Strategist Veclin, a stone-skinned giant of the Vroth species, his massive bulk dwarfing even the armored Meraki nearby. He turned as Voss entered, sharp eyes narrowing. "Silent!" The word dropped like a thunderclap. Voices died instantly. All eyes turned. "Our human observer has arrived." The term made Voss's jaw tense. Observer, not commander, not advisor, just present. He took his seat, strategically placed at the edge of the chamber, far from the center of action. Message received. "The scourge has entrenched itself across Varnock Prime," Veclin continued, motioning toward the holomap. Red clusters spread across the surface like an infection. "Primary hive core is here." He highlighted a fortified zone nestled within civilian infrastructure. Additional markers flared to life, military nodes buried in population centers. Voss nodded slightly, embedding among civilians. Classic insurgent play, effective, cruel. "Our plan is precise," Veclin said. "Phase 1, orbital cleansing strikes, saturation fire on all scourge-infested zones. Phase 2, aerosol deployment of Agent Omega-5, total biosuppression, all living organisms incapacitated, ground forces mop up survivors and secure zones." Voss's eyes snapped up. "Did I hear that correctly, strategist? You're proposing full bombardment of civilian centers followed by chemical deployment?" The room froze. "Yes," Veclin said, voice like grinding stone. "Is that objectionable?" Voss stood taller. "On Earth, that would be considered a war crime. You're targeting non-combatants. You're using chemical agents in urban zones. That violates every major interstellar convention on warfare." A beat of silence. Then the laughter began. Chittering, rasping, growling amusement swept the chamber. Even Veclin's face twisted into what might have been a smirk. "War crimes?" The word emerged, half laugh, half mockery. "Your species has barely escaped its cradle, and now you presume to lecture the Dominion on how to wage war?" "I'm not lecturing," Voss replied evenly. "I'm telling you there are better ways, smarter ones. Precision strikes, civilian evacuations, minimize unnecessary death, and risk the lives of our warriors?" snapped General Jorik, a scaled brute from the Crack's dominion, spines bristling along his armored back. Tell me, human, do you always dull your claws with mercy? Laughter again, derision thick in the air. This explains much, muttered a serene tactician, translucent eyelids flickering, while your kind never expanded until recently, still entangled by the ethics of lesser minds. Voss took a breath, steady, calm. The Corps had taught him patience, timing, and when to strike. You're mistaken, he said when silence returned. We didn't create these rules because we were soft. We created them because we were too good at killing. Brows furrowed, heads tilted. We didn't ban certain weapons because they were weak. We banned them because they worked too well, because we nearly wiped ourselves out multiple times. And we learned, without restraint, war becomes extinction. He let the weight of his words settle. And if that's the future you're planning for this galaxy, count Earth out. High Strategist Veclin waved a stone-like hand, his tone dismissive. Charming Terran philosophy, Commander. Now, back to the real plan. The council resumed as if Ryland Voss had never spoken. His words vanished into the void between alien egos and centuries of doctrine. They discussed vector paths and planetary yields with surgical detachment. No revisions, no hesitation. Civilian casualties were a statistical footnote, and Voss's protest had registered as nothing more than background noise from the newcomer species. When the council dissolved, Voss remained, gazing at the flickering hologram of Varnock Prime, now just a strategic asset in someone else's war. To them, it wasn't a world. It was a problem to be solved with fire and chemicals. Back in his quarters, Voss paced, a storm of frustration building inside him, coiled like a spring. They hadn't just dismissed Earth's rules. They'd laughed, like ethics were a weakness, like history hadn't already taught his people what war without limits became. He stopped at the desk and activated his personal archive. The screen came to life with echoes from Earth's bloodstained past, trenches soaked in gas from the First World Conflict, faces blistered, lungs shredded, the firestorms of Pyrrhus City, the vaporization of 3 entire cities in the Thermic Wars, chemical purges in the Arkan jungles, the cold precision of orbital drones over refugee zones. He watched, grim-faced, not for inspiration, but for clarity, for purpose. Earth had learned, too well, the rules weren't chains, they were shields against becoming monsters. Voss powered down the tablet. His decision was made. You what? High Strategist Veclin's craggy eyes narrowed. Voss stood firm in the private chamber, posture rigid, every syllable sharp and deliberate. Requesting command of the human strike unit, a direct ground assault on the Scourge control nexus. 50 troops, no Dominion support, just transport and 12 hours before orbital action begins. A rumble echoed from Veclin's chest, laughter, or perhaps disbelief. Our projections place no fewer than 500 Scourge sentinels at that site. Even your species must recognize the absurdity. We'll need no backup, Voss continued calmly, just the window. Veclin leaned forward, studying him like a puzzle with too many sharp edges. And the point of this little suicide mission? To demonstrate that it can be done, that it must be done, without massacres, without turning cities into graveyards. And if you fail? Voss didn't blink. Then you've lost nothing but a handful of idealists and can proceed with your purge. Veclin's lips curled into something between a grin and a threat. Very well. Show us your Terran nobility, Commander. Either you succeed and become inconvenient, or you die and become irrelevant. A lesson either way. Voss nodded once. We deploy in 6 hours. As he turned to leave, Veclin added, try not to martyr your entire species proving a point. Earth might send someone even more sanctimonious next. The human briefing room was modest, dimly lit, and barely large enough for the 50 armored figures waiting in silence. But it was enough. When Commander Voss entered, they straightened. At ease, he said. 50 warriors loosened by a hair, but only a hair. These weren't rookies. Earth had sent its finest. Seasoned Marines from a dozen battlefields, bonded by scars and unshakable will. "We have a mission." He activated the display. The holo flared to life. Target marked in red. The Scourge's central command structure, embedded in a civilian district. Typical. This nexus controls all Scourge operations in the northern quadrant of Varnock Prime. Dominion plans to cleanse it with orbital fire followed by Omega-5 dispersal. That strategy will annihilate every living thing in a 5-kilometer radius. A murmur ran through the ranks. Master Sergeant Kellen, one-eye cybernetic, voice gravel thick, spoke first. "That's going to kill a hell of a lot of civilians, sir." "Correct," Voss said, "which is why we're taking that facility. Clean, surgical, no bombardment, no chemicals." A pause, then a question with teeth. "Sir," Kellen asked, "we going in with rules or without?" Voss understood the real query. Was this a sanctioned bloodbath or a true test of restraint? Human protocols, to the letter. We secure the target, eliminate the threat, and protect the innocents. No shortcuts, no exceptions. Some exchanged glances. A few grinned. "The Dominion thinks our rules are weakness," Voss continued. "We'll show them they're the reason we win." Kellen's grin widened, scar tissue tightening over old burns. "Understood, sir. When do we move?" 6 hours. Weapons checks in 1. Mission brief in 2. We deploy silent, we deploy sharp. We don't screw this up. A younger officer raised her hand. Lieutenant Mara Vin, her posture straight as steel. "Sir, what about evac protocol for civilians?" Voss pointed at her. "Excellent. You'll lead the extraction team. Coordinate routes, organize fallback zones. I want every life accounted for. You'll have full authority." She nodded, already calculating. "One last thing," Voss said. "The Dominion will be watching. They expect us to fail. They expect us to break. Let's prove that humans don't need to break the rules to win the war." Dismissed. Varnock Prime had once been a world of open skies and grain towers. Now it was choked by smoke and foreign banners. The Scourge had landed 3 months ago. They crushed resistance and entrenched themselves like ticks in a spine, rooted in towns, feeding on fear. The drop ship swept low over jungle canopy, running silent to avoid Scourge scans. Inside, 50 Marines moved with quiet efficiency, weapons primed, armor sealed, eyes focused. They weren't here for glory. They were here to prove a truth. Humanity doesn't fight harder. It fights smarter and cleaner. Because we remember what it cost to forget. No chatter, no bravado, no last-minute speeches. They were professionals. They knew the job. 2 minutes to drop, came the pilot's voice through comms. Commander Voss brought up the tactical overlay on his wrist console. Their insertion point, a clearing 5 clicks west of the enemy command hub. Far enough to avoid immediate detection, close enough to reach the target before the Dominion's deadline. "Standard rules of engagement," he reminded them. "Confirm targets before engaging. Use proportional force. No civilian casualties, unless there's no other choice. Prisoners are to be treated by regulation." The dropship touched down like a whisper. Hatches hissed open to thick, humid air. Varnock Prime's northern forest stretched out in every direction, dense, damp, and alive. "Move out," Voss ordered. "Standard forest formation." The Terran Marines deployed with silent precision, fanning out as the dropship lifted and vanished into the clouds. Now they were alone. 50 humans against a fortified alien world. Master Sergeant Kellen approached, pulse rifle at the ready. "Insertion complete. No signs of Scourge patrols nearby." "Good. We move." Voss turned toward Lieutenant Vin. "Your team splits off at Waypoint Theta. Focus on civilian evac. Everyone else, bunker route." The forest canopy closed around them like a green fortress. It resembled Earth's rainforests, towering trunks, sprawling roots, and the unrelenting drone of insect life. But here danger lurked behind beauty. The Terrans advanced in near silence, leveraging terrain and shadow like second skin. Dominion forces relied on firepower. Terrans relied on movement, on thinking. 3 kilometers in, Voss raised a fist. "Halt, up ahead, movement." Not human. With a quick signal, the lead squad dispersed into cover. A Scourge patrol emerged from the underbrush. 8 of them, Hulking, crimson-skinned beasts, 7 feet tall, bone-plated hides, jagged tusks, plasma rifles the size of carbines in their oversized hands. Sloppy. They moved with overconfidence. No overwatch, no rear guard. They weren't expecting resistance this deep in the green. Voss marked them, then gave the signal. The Terrans struck like ghosts, controlled bursts, no panic, no wasted rounds. One scourge dropped instantly, 3 rounds through the throat seam in his armor. The rest scrambled for cover, roaring and returning fire. Plasma bolts sizzled through the jungle, setting foliage ablaze. Flank left, Voss ordered over comms. Kellen led a team in an arc while Voss pinned the patrol with coordinated fire. Classic small unit tactics. Old as war, perfected by Marines over centuries. In under 2 minutes, it was over. 7 scourge dead, 1 alive, no human casualties. Secure the prisoner, Voss said. Treat the wound, prep for interrogation. Kellen raised a brow. Sir, wouldn't it be easier to? We follow protocol, Sergeant. Kellen gave a short nod. Aye, Commander. The scourge prisoner growled as 2 Marines approached. A plasma bolt had torn through his leg, charred flesh exposed. He bared fangs, more defiant than afraid. The medic crouched near, unfazed. Stay still if you want to keep that limb, she said, though she knew he probably didn't understand. The Dominion's translator implants didn't support scourge dialects. Too obscure, too isolated. Voss watched as she cleaned the wound, wrapped it, and injected stabilizers. The alien's rage shifted to confusion. He hadn't expected mercy. Bind his hands, Voss instructed, but don't overdo it. I want him calm. The scourge sat propped against a tree, arms bound with reinforced cuffs. Uniform scorched but still displaying rank sigils, likely a systems tech. Valuable. His yellow eyes locked on Voss as he approached. I need intel, Voss said, tapping the map on his wrist, pointing to the bunker, then back to the scourge. Defenses, patrols, access routes. The alien spat near his boot. Contempt. But Voss saw it, the flicker of doubt, the glimmer of calculation. He sat down, calm, controlled, took out a ration bar, broke it in half, offered 1 piece. The scourge sneered, then paused, sniffed. Watched Voss take a bite from his own half. Suspicion lingered, but hunger was hunger. The alien took the food, nibbled cautiously. Voss gestured to the bandaged leg. Stabilized. You'll be moved to a medical facility once we're done, then a holding camp, food, shelter, no torture, repatriation when the war ends. His tone was even, informative. No threats. The scourge let out a dry bark, almost a laugh. But something had shifted. His eyes narrowed. Listening now. That's our way, Voss said. Then there's their way. He tapped his wrist unit. The hologram shifted. A clean simulation. Orbital strike zones followed by chemical dispersal. Cold lines. Cold death. No prisoners. No survivors. They poison everything. You, your kin, the locals. All collateral. The scourge's nostrils flared. They've marked this sector as expendable, Voss added. They're not coming for you. They're coming through you. Silence stretched. I need the layout. Weak points. Guard shifts. Entrances. Help me take that bunker, our way, and you live. Stay silent, and you'll die, same as the rest. The scourge didn't answer. Not for a minute, then finally a grunt. He raised 1 clawed hand, gestured to the map. Voss extended his wrist carefully. With thick fingers, the alien dragged markers across the hologram. Clumsy, but precise. Utility tunnel, he growled. Here. It was enough. The mission just became possible. Old service conduit, the scourge captive rasped. Sensor sweep. Blind. 5 minutes. Every 3rd rotation. He pointed to a junction on the map, claw hovering just above the holographic lines. Voss nodded slowly, absorbing every detail. This is useful. You've honored your side. We'll honor ours. The scourge leaned back against the tree trunk, fatigue creeping into his massive frame. His gaze, still wary, now carried something else. Curiosity. Humans, Fight hard, he muttered, gesturing vaguely toward the bandage, the ration bar, the restraint that wasn't cruelty. We fight to win, Voss replied, voice steady, but we fight to win the peace too. Hard to rebuild anything from a crater. Static buzzed in Voss's ear as Lieutenant Vin came through on comms. Commander, we've reached the civilian habitat. Encountering resistance, not scourge, locals. They're afraid of us. Voss had expected this. Be clear, state your mission. Use med packs as goodwill if needed. Get them moving, within the hour. Copy. Vin out. Master Sergeant Kellen appeared at his side as they emerged from the tree line. Ahead stretched a wide expanse of grassland, and beyond it, the bunker, low, angular, armored, ringed with defensive hardpoints. Our intel's solid, Kellen reported. Sensor lapse confirmed. 5-minute blind zone. Light guard presence at the maintenance hatch. Good. We move on the next cycle. Full stealth until compromise, then breach and storm. Fast, clean. Kellen nodded, but his tone shifted. Sir, Alliance Command's pinging you on a priority channel. Voss grimaced. He accepted the comm. Voss here. High strategist Veklin's voice slithered into his earpiece like poison wrapped in velvet. Commander, just a professional courtesy, as you Terrans might say. The bombardment schedule has been revised. Chemical deployment begins in 6 hours, not 12. Voss's jaw clenched. My team will be inside the zone. Indeed, Veklin purred. Perhaps a tactical withdrawal is in order. Unless your principles are worth dying for. The mockery was acid. We'll complete our mission, Voss said coldly. Voss out. He killed the transmission before Veklin could savor a reply. Change of plans? Kellen asked. Change of timeline. 6 hours instead of 12. Voss turned to his assembled Marines, voice raised just enough to command silence. The Dominion moved the clock. We move faster. Bravo team, rendezvous with Lieutenant Vin. Accelerate evac. Alpha with me. We hit the bunker. Kellen frowned. Splitting forces reduces effectiveness, sir. I'm aware, Sergeant, but we're not buying our success with dead civilians. His tone left no room for argument. Those are your orders. Move. As Bravo team moved out, Kellen lingered. Permission to speak freely? Granted. They're not our people, Commander. The locals, Elvari. They're not Dominion, but they're not human either. Why risk Marines for them? Voss met his gaze without hesitation. Because saving civilians isn't just moral. It's strategic. Every innocent lost becomes a reason for another war. Every life saved could be the start of peace. He paused. And because they're not the enemy. They're just people, caught in crossfire. Kellen considered that, then nodded. We'll get it done. Lieutenant Vin's squad moved carefully into the Elvery village. Clusters of dome-like structures nestled into a hillside. Dozens of tall, blue-skinned natives gathered at the center, large black eyes wary, hands near makeshift weapons. We bring warning, Vin announced through the translator, calm and firm. A Dominion strike is coming. Chemical saturation. Everything here will burn. You must evacuate, now. An elder stepped forward, his skin a paler shade, his bearing composed but weary. Soldiers always bring warnings, he said, voice heavy. The Scourge promised order, brought chains. The Dominion promised liberation, brought death from the skies. Why should you be different? Vin didn't flinch. Because we are here, she replied. Not in a ship, not in orbit. Here, not to take, not to destroy, to protect. Our mission is against the Scourge, but our duty is to shield civilians. That is the difference. The crowd murmured, skepticism and tension thick. One younger Elvery stepped forward, lifting a tool like a weapon. Words are wind. How do we know this isn't a trap? Before Vin could answer, a sharp cry rang out. A youth lay bleeding at the edge of the square, one of his lower arms mangled, blue blood pooling fast. A mine, someone shouted. Scourge trap! The human medic didn't wait for permission. Move, she barked, medkit already out. She pushed forward, knelt beside the injured alien. Hold him still. I've got this. She worked fast, cleaning, sealing, wrapping with a biofuel patch optimized for Elvari biology. Her touch was clinical but compassionate. "He's stable," she said after a moment. "He'll need further care, but he'll live." Silence rippled across the village. The elder watched her intently. Then he turned to Vin. The scourge would have laughed. The Dominion would not have noticed. His eyes narrowed. "You value life." Then louder to his people. "These humans offer a chance. A risk, yes, but staying means death. We go." Some younger Elvery protested, but the elder raised a hand. "I have spoken. Take what you can carry. We leave." The villagers began to move, led by Marines and medics. Suspicion gave way to hope, cautious but real. The utility hatch was right where the prisoners said it would be, half buried under moss and thorny vines. Reinforced, quiet, guarded by two bored scourge sentries. They had no idea what was coming. Voss raised a clenched fist. "Hold position." Above the utility entrance, a compact sensor array blinked with steady rhythm. According to intel, it would cycle into a blind zone in just under 3 minutes. That was their moment. "Non-lethal takedown," he ordered quietly. "No noise." Two Marines peeled off, tranquilizer sidearms in hand, weapons designed for stealth and rarely issued. Dominion brass considered them a human indulgence. Weak, wasteful, but Voss knew better. At his signal, the Marines fired. 2 thuds, no alarms. The scourge sentries slumped into the underbrush, unconscious for hours. "Sensor blackout confirmed," the tech whispered. "You've got 4 minutes, 50 seconds. Voss led the way. They moved fast, dragging the bodies into cover, then slipping through the maintenance hatch. Narrow, cramped, and reeking of industrial rot. A human could walk hunched. A scourge would have to crawl. Perfect. They crept through the service tunnel, bypassing the fortress-like main gate and its heavy defenses. Embedded motion sensors showed clear. The prisoners' data had been solid. "Main junction ahead," Voss whispered. "We split here." The Marines shifted. Team A, command deck. Team B, communication suite. Team C, detainee cells and extraction. "You know your paths. Move sharp." Each team nodded, checked weapons, and vanished into their assigned routes. Voss took point with Team A, peeking around the next corridor. A scourge tech hunched over a glowing console, unaware. Beyond, several others moved between control stations. He gestured for a flashbang. Pin pulled, counted, tossed. A violent burst of light and thunder shook the hall. Voss surged forward, his Marines tight on his heels. Disoriented Scourge reeled and stumbled as the Terrans swept in. Precise, fast, unrelenting. "Team A with me," Voss barked. "Others, go!" Alarms screamed as they advanced deeper. Surprise was over. They pushed toward the command deck, resistance mounting. Halfway down a corridor, a barricade snapped into place. A squad of Scourge defenders behind it opened fire with plasma lances, lighting up the hallway with waves of heat and death. Bolts cracked past Voss's helmet. "Suppressive fire! Smoke it!" A canister flew forward, bursting into thick, rolling clouds that turned the corridor into a fog of war. The Scourge fire faltered. "Thermals on, sweep forward." Using heat signatures, the Marines cleared the barricade room by room. 3 Scourge dead, 5 captured, all bound and stabilized per regulation. "More chatter on the comm grid," reported the signals officer. "They're diverting everything to protect the command hub." "Expected," Voss said. "ETA to Dominion strike? 4 hours, 12 minutes. Then we move faster." The bunker was a maze, on purpose, but the map from the captive held. Every twist, every trap, matched. Their guide had traded survival for accuracy. They hit another choke point. This one worse. A Scourge heavy unit had deployed a plasma cannon in the corridor ahead. The blast took down 1 Marine before anyone could react. "Man down!" Kellen shouted, dragging the wounded soldier to safety. The firepower was overwhelming. Too tight to flank, too dangerous to charge. A clean solution would have meant air support or heavy explosives, both off the table. Civilian structures lay directly above. "Ryder," Voss called out. The unit's demolition expert stepped forward. "Drop the ceiling 10 meters ahead. Crush the team, no spread." "Understood." Ryder sprinted ahead under covering fire, placing a directional charge near a load-bearing strut. Primed, armed. Fire in the hole! The concussive blast shook the hall. Stone and steel fell like thunder, burying the cannon crew in a choking cloud of dust and debris. Advance, Voss ordered. Check for survivors. 2 Scourge had lived, injured, dazed. Voss's Marines patched them up, cuffed them, and pushed on. Command room ahead, Kellen reported. Blast doors sealed. No easy way through. Options? Environmental access, the text said. Big facility means big ventilation. Narrow, lightly defended. Voss nodded. Find me a duct. 10 minutes later they had it, an access hatch barely shoulder width. I'll lead, Voss said, stripping off his rig. Kellen, with me. The rest hold. If we're not back in 30, execute fallback. The duct was tight, pitch black, and twisted. The 2 Marines crawled in silence, guided only by wrist display maps and instinct. They emerged above the command room, peering through a maintenance grate into the chamber below. 20 Scourge, including him. The target, Graveth Tharn, High Commander of the Scourge occupation on Varnock Prime, 8 feet tall, armor layered and ceremonial. Every plate scarred from combat. His command insignia gleamed under the sterile lights. There he is, Voss whispered. Primary target. Kellen glanced down, eyes sharp. What's the play, sir? Flash and drop. Hit hard. Take Tharn alive if we can. Secure controls. 2 versus 20. Odds aren't good. Voss smiled grimly. Marines don't need good odds, just opportunity. He nodded. Kellen quietly unlatched the grate. Voss primed 2 flash charges. Pins out. Drop. The grenades landed perfectly in the center of the command room. 2 bursts of searing light and sound exploded like wrath contained in steel. Even with his eyes closed and ears covered, Voss felt the concussion. The twin stun charges exploded like thunder inside a drum. The Scourge inside the command chamber had no warning, no chance to react. They reeled, blinded and dazed. Voss and Kellen dropped through the overhead grate in perfect unison, boots slamming into the deck, weapons up. Secure the room, Voss barked, already moving toward the one figure still on his feet. The warlord, Graveth Tharn, the towering Scourge commander, staggered, shaking his massive skull to clear the stun effects. He roared something in his native tongue as his vision focused, locking eyes with Voss. Then he moved. Not for a plasma rifle, for a war axe. Crackling with unstable energy, it surged to life as he swung it up from the console table. Surrender, Voss commanded, rifle trained. You're finished. Tharn's response was a snarl of contempt and a sudden charge. The axe came down like a guillotine of light. Voss rolled, the blade missing him by centimeters. It smashed through a terminal in a geyser of sparks and molten steel. No good. Too big. Too close. Voss fired a burst at Tharn's knees. The round sparked against armor. Minimal damage. It only made the giant angrier. Behind him, Kellen was already restraining the stunned Scourge personnel. Voss was alone with the monster. Tharn swung again. Voss barely dodged, diving backward, the axe embedded in the floor. Opportunity. He dropped his rifle, drew his blade, a reinforced combat knife. Small by comparison, but in the right hand, size was irrelevant. Tharn ripped the axe free, turned, and bared his tusks. A knife. Against him. Foolish. But Voss had studied Scourge anatomy. He charged instead of retreating. Slamming his shoulder into Tharn's midsection, he barely budged the giant. But it was enough to break rhythm. He struck upward, blade slicing into the joint of the warlord's dominant arm. Not deep, but precise. Nerve cluster. Tharn howled as his arm spasmed, his grip on the axe faltering. He backhanded Voss with his good arm. The blow launched him across the chamber. He crashed into a support panel, gasping as the air was punched from his lungs. Pain bloomed across his ribs, fractures likely. Tharn advanced, dragging the axe behind him for one final swing. But his injured arm betrayed him. The swing was slower, unbalanced. Voss rolled. The axe slammed into the wall, and in that same instant, Voss came up under it, driving his blade into the soft tissue beneath the warlord's jaw. Not to kill, to silence, to shut down. He hit the nerve cluster that paralyzed motor control. Tharn froze, then collapsed like a felled tree. Voss scrambled out of the way just in time. Kellen ran to his side. Command room secured, all hostiles subdued. Voss staggered upright, pulling his blade free, bloodied but standing. Status on the other teams? Bravo has the comm suite. Charlie freed the Alliance detainees and is already extracting them. Lieutenant Vin confirms full civilian evac. Voss exhaled. Good. He stepped to the central console and activated the command interface. Scourge tech was alien, but logic was universal. In minutes, he had access to the full battle net. How long until Dominion strike? 3 hours, 20. Voss narrowed his eyes. Enough time. Prep the prisoners for transport, he said. Get me aligned to Dominion command. The central holodisplay flared to life. Admiral Veklin's massive form appeared, his expression shifting from boredom to recognition to disbelief. Commander Voss, he said coldly, you're inside the Scourge control facility? Confirmed, Voss replied. Graveth Tharn is neutralized and in custody. All enemy combatants secured, hostages rescued, civilians evacuated. A long silence. Impossible, Veklin hissed. Our analysts projected. Your analysts were right, Voss said, allowing the slightest grin. We just didn't have to kill them all to win. He tapped the console. I'm broadcasting surrender conditions to all Scourge forces in region. With command broken and leadership captured, some are already standing down. You captured Graveth Tharn? He's being treated per Terran protocol. He'll survive, and he'll be available for proper interrogation. Veklin's face twisted. I suppose now you'll ask us to cancel the strike. That would be the rational decision, Admiral. The objective is complete. Civilians are gone. Why bomb a site we already hold, unless your intention is to destroy farmland and infrastructure out of spite? Another voice cut in. A cold, hissing tone. General Vern, a veteran Dominion tactician, notorious for his pragmatism, stepped into view behind Veklin. The human is correct, Vern said. The Scourge presence is neutralized. Proceeding with orbital strikes would serve no tactical value. Wasteful. Inefficient. Veklin's jaw clenched. Rage fought logic. Logic won. Very well, he said. The bombardment is canceled. Prepare your prisoners for extraction. Ground units will relieve your position. Voss nodded. Acknowledged. We'll hold until handoff. The transmission ended. Voss turned to Kellen, the weight of the moment finally catching up to him. We did it, the sergeant said, quiet. Voss looked around the room. Burned, battered, but intact. No, he replied. We proved it. Thank you, Admiral. One last thing. Of course there is, Veklin muttered. Voss kept his voice calm but firm. The Scourge prisoners are to be treated according to Terran conventions. That means medical care for the wounded, humane containment, no enhanced interrogation. I gave my word. Violating it would be diplomatic. Veklin's expression darkened. You exceed your rank, Commander. Perhaps, Voss replied evenly. But Earth is new to this alliance. We're still defining how our rules merge with yours. I'd hate for our first joint victory to end with formal protests over war crimes. Silence. Long. Tense. Veklin's jaw tightened, but he gave a sharp nod. They will be treated under your protocols. For now, this conversation is not over. I look forward to continuing it. Voss out. The first Dominion landers touched down within the hour. Sleek ships unfolding with military precision. Troops swarmed out, taking control of the now silent Scourge bunker. Voss stood at the landing zone watching. Scourge prisoners were escorted out one by one. Wounded received care from medical teams, including the human doctors Voss had demanded. Rations were distributed. Protocols followed. Admiral Veklin's personal shuttle was last. He emerged from the hatch with his usual grim scowl and approached without ceremony. My forward units confirm your reports, he said. Scourge elements across the region are surrendering. Nearly 5,000 warriors. No further resistance. Voss nodded. With their commands severed and surrender terms clearly defined, the choice was obvious. No one fights to the death when survival is still an option. And the civilians, Veclin asked. Evacuated, safe, and cooperating with our teams. They're already providing intel on remaining scourge cells. Veclin stared at him for a long moment. Walk with me. They stepped away from the noise and engines, toward the tree line where Voss's Marines had emerged just hours before. I've commanded Dominion fleets for over 30 standard cycles, Veclin said at last. Our tactics, superiority, shock, saturation, they've worked, time and again. I believe you, Voss replied, but there are other ways to measure success. Not just lives taken, but lives saved. Not just ground won, but stability maintained. Not just victory today, but peace tomorrow. You humans always look to tomorrow. Not always. We used to burn everything too, but we learned from what we became. More silence. Then softer, curious. Tell me the truth, Commander. Not the doctrine, not the diplomatic speech. Why do humans tie themselves with rules? Why hold back? Voss stopped walking. Because it's not about protecting the enemy, he said. It's about protecting us. He met Veclin's gaze unwavering. You laugh at our limitations because you've never seen what happens when we take them off. You've never seen what humans are capable of when we stop caring. His voice lowered, cold and steady. Gas chambers, citywide firestorms, bioweapons crafted to liquefy organs, mass executions. We've perfected pain as an art form, genocide as policy. Voss took a slow breath. We made the rules not because we couldn't win without them, but because we could. And it broke something in us. The rules, they keep us human. Veclin stood silent, visibly disturbed. After a long pause, he nodded slowly. Perhaps your kind has more to teach us than I thought. He straightened. Earth Command has approved your continued assignment to Dominion Command. You'll lead the development of joint engagement protocols, starting immediately. Voss didn't smile. I accept. As they turned back toward the landing zone, Voss caught sight of two Dominion officers near the prisoner processing line. The Scourge captives were being fed, treated. Clean bandages, clean water. Why waste effort on enemies? One officer asked the other. A nearby Terran Marine overheard. He paused, then turned to face them. Armor scuffed, blood on his gloves, voice low and sharp. Because we're not savages. We're soldiers, and soldiers have standards. He walked on, leaving silence in his wake. Voss watched him go, and for the first time since arriving on this strange battlefield, a quiet smile touched his face. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for this alliance after all.